Hello everyone, welcome back to Silly Draft Screenshots, where I go over my and my comrades' experience drafting all the Fire Emblem games. If you missed the previous episodes about the draft itself and about the first 3 Fire Emblem games, check this out. This video is going to be about Fire Emblem 4, Genealogy of the Holy War. I was going to do one that included Thracia as well, but apparently there's so much stuff to go through for FE4 that I thought it would, earn its separate video. So here's the draft. The characters were not drafted exactly in the order/way you see because the other games are in between, but these are just the picks that we had for FE4. I can't too much explain you the rationale behind everyone's picks, but I can tell you the rationale behind mine. It was lacking. I picked too many units that I didn't need. I should have drafted some other games, I think, but the team I did pick was actually quite fun to use. Again, Kuni drafted mostly hot people. Ladi went for some more value. I went for God knows what. We'll find out over the course of this video. And important to note, I think now I just remember from Modi's picks, none of them really stand out right to me as something with a certain theme to it. But I do remember that he said that he picked Alec because he thought he had to pick people to pair. But it turned out we allowed people to just pair whatever they want. You could just only use the units in combat that you were picking. So that's why Alec is there. I don't think he's picked for his own merits there. That's the only thing to keep in mind for this draft, I think. But let's just get into what you're here for, which is funny stories about how that run went. So I'll start with my own, and I'll have some of the others near the end. First off, Finn. Such a massive ass value pick he is. The only way he could be more value is if picking Finn also gave you Finn for Thracia. There was a comment on the previous video that was like, why didn't you do this where like if you pick a unit that appears in multiple games, you get them for all of them? And my answer to that is pretty much just Pala. Like that's a little bit unfair, isn't it? Plus it's funny to pick like multiple incarnations of the same unit like Peeves did for Sida and Linda. Anyway, I picked Finn because I was like, oh, he's good in both gens, right? So I can use him in both. And it turns out he's mostly just really good in Gen 1. So here's a couple screens about that. This is, I want to say, Chapter 1. Maybe beginning of Chapter 2 is roughly the screens you're going to see right now. I also had Quan, and I did not like sandbag Quan. He's level 10 here. He joins at like level 4. But Finn was just such a good return on investment for the most part. I gave him the speed ring because he's one of the few people who can actually use it well in the early game, especially Chapter 1. He's the only one who like doubles more with it basically. And a skill ring because might as well get extra hit when you're facing weapon triangle or fighting people in a forest. God, he popped off. Look at that strength. Look at how much stronger he is than Quan even before considering the rings. He is absurdly powerful, and Pursuit is just icing on the cake, of course. This is kind of continued. This is this Javelin after Chapter 1. He had 23 kills on it. It's almost halfway to getting crit rate on it, which is going to stack with the skill ring if he keeps that around. Absolute massive progress. Javelin as a whole has been very underrated for FE4 players. Generally, I think lances get too much crap. I talked about this a lot with the Tears review a long time ago that I did with Fire Emblem. They basically said, yeah, Javelin is actually really good, and lances are way better than swords in Gen 1 at least. Gen 2 is a different story, but in Gen 1 you just don't need that much speed to double, and lances have way more power. Like a steel lance is about as powerful as a silver sword, and Finn shows that off really well. I think he's the best example of a unit that puts it into practice because he has Pursuit, and he doesn't use swords, but he doesn't really care about it all that much. I didn't really do a whole lot of miracle setting up, but just look at how strong he's gonna be. Like, look at this shit. This is before seizing the second enemy castle in Chapter 2, Anthony. At this point, he is ready to promote. He killed Volts for the Paragon Band, and he got this Brave Lance that he just got down to 2 uses because of how much things he killed. I think I remember him killing Armor Knights and not getting XP for it in Anthony Castle, but I'm not sure if that's this playthrough or a different playthrough. But, I mean, either way, look at how strong he is. There's something aesthetically pleasing about a stat being above 20 to me in FE4. I don't know what it is. It just looks like out of place. He is so absurdly powerful. That Brave Lance really freaking helps him a lot, and I think Quan wouldn't have done a whole lot with it anyway, and keeping it on Finn just makes a lot of sense when he attacks 4 times while Quan only attacks 2 times, and basically loses the value of Adept. Finn is so good. Here is roughly his final results. I don't remember what's remarkable to this screenshot. I think this is just how he is in Chapter 3, but this is near the end of Chapter 3, I'm pretty sure. where I say, hey, help, my best unit's Javelin is nearly level capped, because the Javelin at this point has 81 kills. At the bottom right, you see a screenshot of Sigurd from Peeve's game, having a 51 kill Javelin. I want to say this is chapter 1. So I was not the only one Javelin gaming. I'm trying to draw little parallels between our drafts whenever I can. Of course, Peeve only had Sigurd for the early game, as we'll get into later, so he didn't have much of a choice but to do this. For me, this was an active choice, and God, was it fun. Along the way, I also used Sigurd, of course, and he was generally killing things, but here's an example of a unit that I have trouble recruiting when I have units that are too strong. Beowulf loves to suicide on you, and you can only recruit him by talking to him on player phase, and when you're trying to enemy phase a bazillion of his friends at once, it can be kind of hard. But he has just a little bit more durability than his friends, and so the Slim Sword, I think, allowed Sigurd to one-round KO everyone else, but not kill Beowulf, and also no chance to crit, because the Slim Sword didn't have crit on it, whereas I'm sure some other weapons I had at this point did. Sylvia, the slide is called Shopping. I'm sure you can see why. When she asked which villages should I visit in chapter 2, the answer was yes. And so she was not going to be needing anything for the rest of the generation, because Bargain Band and 420k, is that how you know? That's 42k. Damn, no funny number. But yeah, she has everything she needs to afford. The Armor Slayer is one of the villages in chapter 2, if you're wondering why she has that. You gotta use a thief. I think in old Fire Emblem FAQs and guides and stuff, you can often see the phrase, you have to use a thief, so you might as well use this one, and they'll talk about the early thief like the Matthews and the Qualms and the Chads. It's like, well, it sucks that you can't, like, that they suck at combat, but you gotta use a thief, right? And usually, the way I interpret this for playthroughs is just I use the thief to pick locks and nothing else. I keep them out of combat whenever I can, because even if you do train them, they're too frail, they're not worth it. In FE4, there's no locks to pick. There's one bridge you have to lower with Dew, and that's about it. And other than that, your main reward for using a thief in battle is to get gold out of the enemies. And I was the only one, this is the only thief I think in the whole draft that we had to actually pick to get utility out of. And the only, maybe even the only thief that was draftable, but I don't remember that one for sure. There might have been like some Rickers that you had to draft. But the point here is, I thought it would be a high value pick, but honestly, for a run where you're not really investing into that many different people, there's not that much gold problems for units because they can just get all the villages, and so there wasn't too much of a reason to use Dew, except the fun of it. And when you think about it, what other reasons do you need to use a thief? So here we have him killing the Torba, the first Falcon Knight boss in the chapter. On the right you see him 3-hit killing Armor Knights using the Brave Sword. What that means is he doesn't need the 4th hit, so it saves uses, it saves some gold. The little line at the bottom, I had to buy the Pursuit Band so he could give the right amount of money to Lewin, so Lewin can buy the Pursuit Band. This is just a little bit of fun manipulation you can do with the numbers. I don't know how many of you actually enjoy the math aspects of Fire Emblem, or just like the strategy parts or any of the other parts of it, but I just get some little bit of satisfaction out of having to buy something to give money to someone else, but not too much money, so that Lewin has enough to buy the Pursuit Band but doesn't overkill on gold. I think that was the idea behind that little maneuver, because Dew buying stuff is free for him. He can always sell it for the same price, so he basically just lets the pawn shop borrow his things if he needs more money, or he's borrowing stuff from the pawn shop in reverse to make sure he doesn't give too much money away. It's very fun to manipulate numbers like that, I think, and I mean, I know most of you watching at this point especially are nerds, but I just thought that was something that you might enjoy if you've never tried using Dew like that in FE4. But the main reason to use him is, of course, to say you're using a thief for combat. This is something fun about the 0 to hero that Dew goes through. His promotion is quite good. He gets pursuit, an extra point of move. He has a unique amount of movement in FE4, and he's quite satisfying to use if you can get him there. And plus, it no longer becomes a drag to get him through the entire continent of FE4 just to open a single bridge. It's a feature now. It's not a drag on you. Quite fun. Quite fun. Here you see me recruiting Radney, another unit I drafted. Not much to say, normal Fire Emblem recruitment things. Here, I would like to think that I gave Sylvia, a unit with Miracle, the Miracle Sword, because I saw 70 hit, 12 might, female only, and I thought, yeah, that's probably, if I'm gonna do Dancer combat, I'm gonna give her the Miracle Sword, because that seems like a good fit. I would like to say that I did not forget that she had innate Miracle, that she didn't need the Miracle Sword to get Miracle. I would like to say that. And while I'm going to spotlight my units one by one, might as well give Aranis some time in the sun. Is that the expression? I think that's it. So there's not too much flying utility in FE4, and when I think of flying utility in FE4, I think of like having Aranus fly to Bridget and Tiltu's help, which I'm sure I did in this run, as I always do when I have access to Aranus, or maybe picking off some enemies from the Chapter 2 army, from the Design army with the Horse Slayer. But this is one I haven't really seen a whole lot about. You know the little yellow no-fly zone that you encounter sometimes in FE4, where they try to make sure you're not, excuse me, you're not interfering with events that are going to play out in the desert. So they make like a no-fly zone to stop you from getting in there. Apparently this is not in a no-fly zone, and so Aranus could fly in here and help out. Of course, apparently she did get hit by a couple things on her way there, but she can wreck this boss before you ever get there, which is a nice alternative to slogging through the road tiles through all the meteors to try and kill her, because you're definitely going to get attacked at least once by doing this. But yeah, as you can see, my odds of killing her were quite good. I don't remember exactly how it went, but I'm sure she did perfectly. Units that weren't really featured here are like Lewin and Tilt. No, I didn't have Tiltu. I think Lewin doesn't have a whole lot of pictures in Gen 1, but Lewin kind of thinks it's like nothing out of the ordinary, so I don't have any outstanding pictures of him, but I do have something about his son later. Anyway, Combat Dancer. Alex does the response here below, you should read it. But as is tradition, I've been training my dancer. And here at the bottom I say, I spent like 5 minutes playing with my food until I realized I could just silence Raptor so that Lewin can kill his comrades without killing Raptor. If you're confused, don't worry. We got this. We have the technology. We can show movies in this PowerPoint from Wish, right? And if not, my editing software can do it. Anyway, let's get into Gen 2. The Gen 2 unit that stood out the most to me, it wasn't Seliph, it wasn't Lewin's son, it wasn't anything like that. It was Radney, or the Legend of Radney. Sometimes you have these super unremarkable units that you just don't give a damn about. That, like, when I'm making like a tier list video and I have to tier Badney and we're deciding between C, D, and E tier, between a bunch of other mediocre people, I'm like, bro, who cares? It's Radney, right? After this, I cared. After this, I cared because having an unremarkable unit do remarkable things out of pure chance is just so much fun, especially when character interactions get involved. So you can see here, I had Radney murder Johan in cold blood and then chase after Joe Halvier's army. Joe Halvier went home to get reinforcements because Radney killed them all. So I made Radney follow him, kill his reinforcements again, and then kill Joe Halvier. And then, you know, revelations.png. You can see here killing a generic dude, or I think she's about to kill him. Probably is about to kill him. I doubt base Radney one-rounds these guys without a crit, and she can't crit with her Iron Blade. I don't know how the hell she got enemies to refuse to attack her, but I'm guessing that she got too much avoid from a forest plus the stats you see here for them to have hit on her, which is quite impressive. Or a mountain even, or self-leadership. But either way, she did it, and I'm super proud of her. This is... I never thought in my life I would see a Badney glow up, and here it is. Here's some more assorted screenshots of it, but before we get into assorted screenshots, this is the perfect turn. This is turn 69, and I'm killing her other love interest. Say goodbye to Joe Halvier, and at this point, she was a level 10 Myrmidon with a 23 kill Iron Blade. I don't think I've ever seen a blade weapon in FE4 get this many kills. It's always been Hero Sword, Light Sword, what else is good? Silver Sword, I suppose. Some other kind of ranged swords. It's never the Iron Blade, but Radney joined with this sword in this chapter and just kind of went ham on the enemies. I also apparently gave her the skill ring villages, which... only one village. I think that shows how invested I was into Radney at this point. Most standout units by far. Here's some more episodes of the Badney saga. You can still see my female sword user kill various bosses. Here's another one. Like it says, don't look too closely. I'm killing Ishtar here, and I'm killing Asalio. normal female sword user stuff. Very normal. Is this still the same thing? What did I do with my thing? I just figured out I can scroll with my mouse. There we go. Also, I drafted Linde because I was very much looking forward to using Paragon Wrath Thoron once again. I did that once in my life in a substitute run, and it's the only part of the substitute run that I really enjoyed. And so I was really looking forward to it. And it didn't happen for, well, I think it speaks for itself. So instead, I got extra XP on my Pegasus Knight here on Fee. This is, I think, Fee's only appearance here. She wasn't super remarkable or anything, but this is one thing that she had to do. I'm sorry, Linde. And I'm sorry, Tiltu, and I'm sorry, Tinny. Finn is not gone. I did say he was less remarkable in Gen 2. There's not a whole lot of action for him. But he did have a 100 kill Javelin, mostly courtesy of Gen 1, but some Gen 2. I did think it was important to remark that Leaf loses his entire army at Ulster when Finn could have just soloed it. Sometimes I hate it when I've trained Finn for Gen 2 and then he goes up against the Armor Knights in Ulster and I'm trying to feed them to Leaf, but he like A, takes 0 damage so they don't attack him, so I can't set them up on enemy phase, and 2, he one-rounds them, and like I'm trying to use a weaker weapon, but there's no really weak lance in FE4. Like the weakest you can get is an Iron Lance. The Slim Lance is stronger than the Iron Lance if I recall correctly, or at least equal might, and so it was impossible to set up kills with Finn. I think the Horse Slayer is kind of ass, but I don't know, I always have experiences of him overkilling enemies and it sucks. Leaf usually just has to get his own kills from somewhere. But yeah, Finn is kind of nice. I do think there's only so much space for good combat units in FE4 Gen 2, and the things that Finn can do, Oifi can generally do better, and even Oifi is often second fiddle to whatever you have to be carrying your army. So it's hard to really have Finn do a whole lot of stuff, but if you try to make Finn work, you'd be surprised at how much he does, even if he looks older than most of the cast. It turns out you don't have to be a young, plucky teenager to wreck things in FE4. This is a good summary of Chapter 9, I think, and how much I felt like playing it. Here is more female sword user action. It's pretty normal. Like I said, I was really invested in my female sword users, so nothing to see here. This is a cool part for Set, who was the son of Lewin and Irenis. You know these barons that like to stand around this mountain and look tough and try to kill you? Or rather, they don't try to kill you, they just block you, but they refuse to attack you. Yeah, after he killed a couple of them, including their leader, they were like, actually, we're gonna stand aside, just let him through. And second thought, let him through. It saved me a bunch of time, a bunch of animations, a bunch of Forseti and Great Shield animations. And now in theaters, Lean murdering Manfroy, and speaks for itself, doesn't it? Peeved's Baldur Legacy. So those were my own screenshots. I beat the game at this point, and now we're on to some other people's screenies. This is Peeved's 100 kill Javelin. Again, I want to say he got this very quickly. I'm calling it the Baldur Legacy, not the Secret Legacy, because on the right, you can see here, it's totally a movie, trust me. This is a picture taken moments before disaster, because all these cross knights have javelins. Ethlyn is right here with the pursuit band, the light brand, and a magic ring. Apparently base Ethlyn without any magic procs can one round all these cross knights with ease, and if she's on a force, there's like no chance of dying. I don't see Sigurd nearby anywhere, but I'm assuming she has enough of void to reasonably survive considering the FE turn, the FE4 every turn save feature. I have this screenshot not necessarily because of the weapons here, although it's pretty comedic that Sigurd alone managed to get the light brand and the brave sword, or the Gen 1 units alone were enough to bring the brave sword to 55 kills and the light brand to 90. But I do like the story about how he was trying to save a village for, I think, Aideen, because that was one of his few Gen 1 drafts. The restore staff is in that village, and he forgot to kill the brigand that was on it, and so it got burnt all the way down, or he forgot to visit it. One of these two things is true. And so we didn't have restore for chapter 4, and he was put to sleep numerous times in chapter 4. Yeah, there you go. And then chapter 5 didn't really matter. Modi had some experiences in common with me and Peeved. You can see he also had his assorted substitute sword user to have fun with. Of course, he went about it in a different way with the brave sword and the paragon band right away. I think my Radney had a different route to, hero-dom, but, whatever works. Both Peeved and Modi got kind of screwed on speed with him. You can see a level 27 Seliph here from Modi with 15 speed, and Peeved also has 15 speed. I think Modi's ended up with 16 speed afterwards, but you know, just a sign that just because a unit is good doesn't guarantee that the RNG will be nice to them. That said, these Seliphs will both still double almost everything they need to, but it probably made the final chapter a little bit harder. Apparently, Peeved did get a level 20. I think this is referring to Sigurd actually. Anyway. Also, Modi forgot to pair up Tiltu as well, or rather, he forgot to not pair up Tiltu, and she married Claude, so he also had a nice Valkyrie staff Arthur for his troubles instead of the substitute that he wanted. Modi also did Dancer Gaming, as you can see here. Nice level 20 Layla. I don't remember how high my Lean or my Sylvia got. I do like the addition of Miracle Sword on Layla to turn her into as Sylvia of a unit as possible. I like the ring collection too. And hopefully he got a bunch of kills with her, but since his message accompanying this screenshot was "I tried, okay," I don't know how true that is. You have to check the comments for that. Some more Peeved funnies from various points in the game. Didn't have a great answer to the mage army over here, except he had Julia, so he really did have an answer. Reminded that Peeved had a Nosferatu tank in every single game. I did take Kanas from him from FE7, but he just got Athos there. But Julia is probably the best Nosferatu tank in the series up to this point, and quite a little bit after, and it pretty much shows here because I'm pretty sure all these enemies were gone by the end. I don't know what he did with Tini/Linde. This is the reason I don't usually use Julia for this task. If Julia activates Adept, Tini is quite dead, but hopefully she lived happily ever after. Ideen, like I said, one of his very few units, promoted very early in Gen 1, and quite good. Here's a 100 kill Thoron on Arthur. You can barely see the bottom of his portrait here. It told me that Arthur wrecked quite a lot of things, and then when he stopped 100 killing things, fortunately, okay, so he did get Tini actually. He did get Tini, and Tini ended up wrecking almost everything with it afterwards. It's probably the most overkill crit ever seen because they rely on Wrath Vantage anyway. He had Lex Arthur, I think. So yeah, I don't know how important it was to get it to 100 kills or to get Wrath, but having both is probably fun. With this Leaf screenshot, I am reminded of the scene between Lucina and Chrom in Awakening, where Chrom is like, "Oh, you deserve better from me than a sword and a World of Troubles," because, well, Leaf inherited a World of Troubles. He also inherited more than a single sword, and so he probably was able to solve these troubles a lot more easily. Or rather, he was able to get more money to solve the problems more easily. Silith, as a reminder, was not in the draft itself, but she did participate by using Peeved's team, and they managed to encounter almost every bug they can in FE4. I tried to get Julia and Silith to be disgusting lovers by using the jealousy system with Lana and Radney. It did not work. The moment Daisy joined in Chapter 7, she was already married to Silith for some reason, I remember that. Trying to get Lean a few levels so she could push through the Chapter 7 arena, I accidentally dismounted Silith between dances, making him bugged, incapable of moving on any turn he wasn't danced on. I think this means Silith was probably playing on an old patch, but the screenshots look new, so I don't know what that means. At the start of Chapter 8, Silith just didn't exist. Luckily, I had to save the start of Chapter 7, so I didn't have to redo the entire game. I think this is related to the third bug. I think this is what happens when you have a bugged dismounted Silith. This is why I'm paranoid of dismounting him myself. But for screenshots, I only have one. I tried to give Turfing as many kills as I could stomach giving it at Gen 1. I sadly did not bother in Gen 2, so it fell short of getting the full 100 kills from maximum crit chances. Unfortunately, she only got 43 kills here. Oh, and then 87 here. So almost kind of worked. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's silly draft screenshots. Hope you enjoyed. Use any of these buttons like and subscribe and comment to let me know you enjoyed. I am noticing that these videos get less views than the videos I usually make, even Let's Play videos, which I find a bit surprising. Now that is fine. As you know, I don't just make videos because they get high views, otherwise I would never make content like Thieving Saga or whatever. But it does help me to know that there's a group of people who do really enjoy watching these, so let yourself be known in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!